Well, a very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of The Humble Climb. We obviously had the week's break last week, which was awesome to recap a few of the past episodes that we've had. It was amazing start since we first started. So I can't thank you guys enough for continuing to like, follow, subscribe, comment, and showing us so much love here at The Humble Climb. I've got a mutual friend of mine on today, Victoria Curtis, who is doing amazing things in the cosmetic space, and mutual friend of ours that came off through the back of the Effie Cats podcast, which was really, really cool and an insightful chat. I love coming across, well, as someone that I should say was grown up by a mum and daughter and sister. I've got a bit of a soft spot when it comes to women, so I think everybody knows that. So to have Victoria on is a massive honour, so I can't thank you enough. Vic, can I call you Vic?
Tori, actually.
Tori. I'll call you Tori. Yeah. I actually like that. So I'll call you Tori. I like it. We're on nickname basis already.
Yeah, that's it.
Welcome on The Humble Climb. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's so exciting.
I wanted to come across, and obviously I know we spoke on Instagram before this eventuated, but I've done a fair bit of research, and I'm always talking about the girls in the office. And so today they were like, Dim, who you got coming on? Because they know it's Wednesday, it's record day.
Yes.
And I said, I've got Victoria Curtis from Cosmetics, or Curtis Collection,
yes,
I should say. And half of them knew, and half of them were like, I've heard of, but I haven't bought anything. A few girls were like, yeah, I bought some stuff from there, which was really cool. So I guess leading in, I think you're obviously a very dynamic businesswoman, clearly.
Thank you.
What, and I've read plenty about you, which is good. Talk to me, who's the face behind Victoria Curtis?
So I grew up in a family where beauty was just normal for us. I mean, my parents being Greek, as you are too, presentation is everything. Would you agree?
100%.
Right?
What thoughts on me out of 10?
You look fabulous.
Thanks. I'll take that as
Love
a 10.
the suit and the
I'm
tie.
a 10. Yeah,
That's
I'm a 10.
It's a 10. But that's how we're raised. So my parents would go to events. They'd always dress beautifully, and it was something that was innate in all of us. You know, just presentation was everything. And I think beauty was normal for me. I grew up with aunties that were hairdressers, cousins that were makeup artists. So it was around me. I had a hairdryer in my hand at 13, you know, like legit. So it was just all very normal for me. And it was nothing that I ever thought I would pursue as a career, because it was just part of my life, really. So I studied. I went to obviously high school and university, and I studied accounting and marketing. So it was nothing to do with beauty at the time. Different. And that led me to studying for a year in the US. I went to LA and I finished my university degree there. And that was possibly the best experience I ever had, not only from the fun aspect, but also from the point of view that they taught me about public speaking, because they're very big on that in America, and presentation and how you come across when you're trying to sell something or in business. And that's something that, you know, we weren't necessarily taught at university here. It was more study, answer questions, do the exam, you're good. So I learned a lot about how to stand up and speak in front of people, and that's come to be so beneficial to me today, because that's what my business is all about. So that was something within, you know, part of my journey that I didn't plan, but it really played a major role in my business today. So I graduated, I came home, and I got a job in L'Oreal, Australia, in marketing. So I started to understand the back end of the beauty business. Now, this was totally by chance.
What year potentially we talking there at L'Oreal?
So we were, oh goodness me, like 2008.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, something like that. Gosh,
just after the Commonwealth
giving my age away. If someone's trying to calculate.
I love it.
I did about a year or two there, and I got to know, like I said, the back end of the beauty business, and it gave me a bit of an idea about my business. So I used to travel once a month with the sales representatives to beauty salons where we'd sell the L'Oreal product into. Yeah. And I noticed that the makeup brands that were sold in those beauty salons were really good for your skin, but they didn't have the luxury or the packaging of designer cosmetics. Okay. So I thought back then, it's a bit of a niche there, like a gap in the market to sort of give them both, because back then using mineral cosmetics was just new to the industry, and it was all about having makeup that wouldn't compromise your skin, and that's what our brand is. So when I went away to England and lived there for a year. And I didn't work there. I was there with my partner at the time. And I started to investigate manufacturers and, how I might go about this. Spent a year or two on that. And then we landed in Brisbane. And when we ended up in Brisbane and settled there, I launched a couple of products. And I had one lady in a beauty salon that said, I think I could sell this. But my L'Oreal trained brain was telling me that it needed to be a whole collection. It needed to be like something you walk into a salon and you see a destination point within the salon, not just a product collecting dust on the shelf.
Yeah, of course.
So I turned her down at the time and I went away and I put an entire collection together.
So when you're saying collection for someone, or I guess the someone like me, who,
yes.
Are we talking lipstick, foundation, the whole lot, versus just doing a foundation as an example? Yeah, okay.
So something that a range where you could complete an entire face. So from eyes, brows, lips, face, a whole collection of makeup that they could work with in the salon and sell. And then also they can do services using our product as well.
Love that.
Which is the best way to sell it.
Is it normal for cosmetics to be in hair salons? I don't know, maybe I'm off the mark here.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Does it happen? Is it happening more often, or has it become more recent?
It's always happened, but more recently, beauty and with Instagram and TikTok and everything, women have become very savvy about makeup and they know what products they want and how to get a certain look, and they want to have their makeup done now because people go to a lot of events and they like to Instagram it. So hair salons have this opportunity now to offer that service in store.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's what works for us. So that's the space we started in. That's where we stayed. That's the part of L'Oreal that I was into. It was the professional division. So we've stayed loyal to salons this whole time. We started with one and then I engaged a PR agency in Sydney back then, Roxy Jasenko, who I adore to this day. And she launched us.
Sweaty Betty PR.
Yeah, Sweaty Betty PR. Yeah. And she's the most amazing, dynamic businesswoman, and I learned so much from her. And we had 100 stockists within a year.
Yeah, wow.
It was out of control.
Australia-wide or just Sydney?
Australia-wide, yeah. And then within a couple of years, we had a distributor in New Zealand. Now we have 300 and something here and 150 over there.
Yeah, wow.
So staying loyal to that part of the industry has really benefited us, because if we went department store, a lot of our salons would possibly abandon us or go to another brand, because it's a little unfair to them if they do all the hard work and then you can just repurchase at a department store. So
your businesses, a lot of it would be considered what, e-commerce?
A lot of it is, but a lot of it is B2B. So we essentially will manufacture everything in the US, which is where we make our products.
Yeah, okay.
And then we ship them here and they go out to our retailers. So that's that's the majority of our business. And then we have our e-commerce, our
and
website.
they buy these distributors, so to speak, being your salons.
Yes.
They buy a certain quantity.
Correct.
However it might be, wholesale wise. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll buy our collection to start, and then they just repurchase. I learned early on that the power of efficiency and making everything really streamlined. So when we grew from 0 to 100, the process and procedures that we had in place were not going to meet the needs of 100 retailers as opposed to one. So I had to build a whole website for our stockists that allowed them to watch video tutorials, order online, basically save them time and save us time. Otherwise, we would be compromising on the service and the quality.
I was having a look through the website earlier on, and it's very detailed.
Yes, I don't know if that goes into makeup.
Yeah, I don't know if you got the feedback on that, but it's incredible. Like,
thank you.
I was having a look because I just like to understand. Like, obviously for me, I don't wear makeup.
Yes.
I did when I was 6.
A lot of men do.
When I was 6 or 7, true story, my sister put me in a Sailor Moon outfit. And I still got the photo, and she completely drenched me in makeup.
Oh, that's
adorable. It was awesome. It was fine. It was fine. So, I must say, I don't, but like I know that obviously on TV sets and all that, every single presenter, male, female, whatever they may be,
absolutely
is obviously having makeup touched up or what they need to do. So I think it's probably going to be normalized.
Absolutely. And there's lots of men that wear concealer and wear our CC cream and things that just like correct their skin.
Yep.
So some of our products are really simple, like they don't give you heavy coverage, but then we've got products for girls that want like full makeup.
Yeah, understand.
So we try to tailor it to everybody.
Like
so
as if you're going to Lumbra.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Lumber back in the day.
Yeah, I love it.
Jeez, I did a few nights.
Yeah, exactly. I completely get it. And so your cosmetics range, is that also inclusive of like so one thing that I do love actually, and then everyone laughs at me, but I love going for a facial.
Oh, everyone loves facials.
I love going for a facial. So any like whenever my birthday comes around, I normally get like a voucher for some sort of facial. Like it doesn't have, anyway.
I love facials.
I don't mind that stuff.
Yeah,
I'm very
dad does too.
Yeah, I'm very in tune with that stuff. I like the whole experience.
Everyone should look after their skin.
Yeah, I love
important.
it. I'm all for it. I mean, it's my skin could use some work, but it's just it's dehydration. I think under the eye, so I normally get the bags. But do you have like do you go into the space of those facial spaces as well?
Well, funny you say that. We're expanding now, 10 years on, into skincare. So our makeup complements skincare because it's a skincare-based makeup range, so it's not going to cause your skin any harm. Yeah. And a lot of makeup brands do if they're chemical-based.
Yeah.
So we now are moving into the space of skincare to complement our current product offering. So we're excited about that. That's something new for me.
I kind of feel like you, and tell me if I'm wrong because you know your business better than anyone, but I kind of feel like you have to.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
the way where the world's going now. And
100%. I think that what happens is people, if you get stuck in one little part of your business and you're not working on it, you're working in it, then you can't see what potentially you can tap into. So we've got the customer base there, we've got the distributors, it makes sense. And obviously everything we make now that they trust, they've, become very loyal to the brand. So they know that what we offer in future will be the same quality. So that it's all about that trust though, building that trust with your customers. And you can only prove that over time.
I think it's awesome, like Fazza said, to have that different facets to the business, but it sort of sounds like, which is awesome, that you've had really sustained growth over time. Yeah. You probably built and at a really nice point where it was slowly but surely, but also it wasn't overnight.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I took time to really perfect everything.
Yeah.
And then once the ball started rolling quickly, it was all set up in my mind as to where we were going and how I would handle the growth, because that's one thing a lot of businesses, the reason they might fall over or fail is they're not prepared for the growth, because you have to really be understanding your processes and how you're going to still deliver when you had one customer compared to 100. Definitely. And that's a whole different ball game, because you've got people calling you left, right and center. Every one of my stockers, and there are many, have my phone number. They call me personally. Awesome. I will always give them the ability to contact me, because I'm the best person to answer their questions at the end of the day if it's something that they really need to know. So it's an important part of my business to stay grounded and stay in touch. Otherwise, you lose sight of what's going on, and that's when you make mistakes.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. Yeah. And so from a business point of view, because every, I think, industry's got its challenges. Like obviously me in real estate, I could tell you what the issues are in real estate hypothetically. In your industry, in what you're in, skincare, facials, or sorry, not facial, but skincare, cosmetics, mainly cosmetics now for the time being. What's the biggest issue in your industry?
I think for us, it's number one, competition, because obviously we're going up against multinationals, like big companies that have deep pockets and they can, basically sell anything, anytime. That's a challenge. But I remember when I started, people would sort of looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what are you doing? You're going into this space where people dominate, like L'Oreal's and Maybelline's, and how can you think that you'd ever make it?
Was it sort of similar when Sephora came down?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But the thing is, I'm a really strong believer in staying in your lane. Like, I don't look left and right. I focus on what I'm doing. And I think if you focus on what you offer, your point of difference, no one's going to be like you. Yeah. So if you can be unique and offer something above and beyond in terms of your service, then, there's going to be a portion of the market for everybody.
Is that kind of the reason as to why, like, you wouldn't have gone and opened up a store as an example, because you lose that gloss?
Yes. And also for me, I didn't see that as viable. Like, I wanted to have many distributors as opposed to focusing on 100%. One store, which would be a challenge in itself, because you're managing, people. I mean, I don't have people on the ground in the stores. That's my salon staff. Yeah. So we can train them, but we don't have to manage them, if that makes sense.
I love that. Yeah, I absolutely love that.
So that's a really good key part of my business where I can focus on the product side, delivering the education, and then they sell for us. So
amazing.
But I've never been shy. Like, I'm not shy. So I am not afraid to door knock. I wasn't. I door knocked. I rang every single day. I would ring different salons. Like, I'm not afraid of no. I have no shame. Like, in business, if someone turns me down, it's okay. Like, it's not meant for me. And in life in general, really. So I think that's why it became what it became, because I just had the ability to get past any no's that came my way. It didn't bother me.
I actually love that so much, because we were actually talking about this at our work 2 days ago in our sales meeting, where we were saying about our industry is so heavily, you get rejected a lot.
Of course.
You get rejected a lot, that, people don't want an appraisal, or people don't want to sell, or people don't want to hear from you. People don't want contact. People they think real estate agent, and they just think, you know what I mean?
Of course, yes.
So
Any
I love
form of
that.
sales.
Exactly.
Get turned off.
Exactly. So I love that you say that it's just like, you know what? No, I think it almost comes down with as well, though, having confidence within yourself as a person, because if you can ask 10 people, but you only get the one yes, well, then it's been worth it.
Absolutely. And as they say, if you don't ask, the answer's always no.
Exactly.
So for me, I see everything as an opportunity, honestly, and I will take my opportunity every single time. Like, if I want something, I will find a way to make it mine.
I love that.
It's just something within me. Like, I can't help it. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not afraid of the rejection. Whereas a lot of people take that as a confidence blow, or their ego gets in the way. I'm all about removing the ego. Because if you let your ego stand in your way, you're never, ever going to get to where you potentially could be. So I remove it every time. I don't worry about my ego. And I think, okay, it just wasn't meant to be that opportunity. There's another one coming.
I love it. It's so fascinating. Like, it's just dynamic in its approach.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, because I just love hearing people just being like, you know what, stuff it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I was going to go for it, which is awesome. That's
right. And if I hadn't have taken all these opportunities, I simply would not be here today. I'd be in Brisbane selling, 2 products to a couple of locals, because that's how it started. But I just, I went for it. And I didn't care if it failed, if it didn't. It was just a journey. And honestly, when I think back on my journey, the best part was the start. The building, the hustling, wondering what was next. Was it going to take off? Was it not? That was the most exciting part. Now all the wheels are in motion and it works. And of course, there are other stresses that come with that. But that was the best part of my journey, because it was so exciting. Like, what was around the corner? Where was this going? And that's why a lot of people want to rush to success. But there's no elevator to get there. Like,
have you seen that by that staircase in Mykonos by any chance?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
That's right. Yeah.
It's the best one.
Exactly.
It's so true.
It's true. And this is the thing. I mean, everyone thinks, I just want to get there. I want to be big and this and that. But that's not the fun part to me.
Yeah.
Like, the other thing that my advice is, even when you're starting small, having a big brand mentality is something I always talk about. So when you could be operating out of the back room, but perception's reality. You can't allow anyone to see that from your customer's point of view. So you need, when I say act like a big brand, have a great website, have fantastic social media. So perform and act like a big brand would, so that when people research your brand, whether it's small, big, it's irrelevant. They're seeing on the surface what looks as though it's a big brand.
Yeah, it's proper class, isn't it? Like, you want to compete. It's no different, I guess. You want to compete with the big people.
Of course.
You want to be known as the big person in some degree. I mean, I think to a degree, and no doubt, and I'll certainly get onto it shortly, like how much social media, I'm sure, has infiltrated your business as well.
Unbelievable.
Because everyone's buying with their eyes, really.
100%.
And the whole world's gone a bit cray-cray with this blue tick stuff and all that type of stuff as well.
Yes.
So everyone sort of wants a bit of a piece. But I wanted to ask you, because obviously you're a mum as well, which is incredible.
Yes, thank you.
How do you balance being... Because I haven't had anybody on, I don't think, that sort of, had obviously the business side of things, the way that you've got it, but also being a mum.
Oh, look, it's the hardest thing. But being a mum is the hardest job. My business is easy when I compare it to that. When I became a mum, my business was in like thriving mode. Like, it was just crazy times, and I fell pregnant. And I was scared. I was genuinely scared. Like, I thought, I don't know what's going to happen now, because I give my business 100%. But as a mum, it's going to come second at some point, because you've got a newborn. So when it happened, it was a real culture shock for me. Like I didn't know where I was at. I was so in love with my baby. I wanted to be a mum full time, but that wasn't possible. Thankfully, I have an amazing family network, so that really helped. But even now, I mean, my son's almost 6, and dedicating time to him and being a mum and dedicating time to my business, which is my other baby. I've learned now that when I'm with one, I give 100% rather than splitting, like I'm giving 50% because I'm thinking about work, or I'm at work thinking about, I will give it 100% when I'm in either environment, and then both get the best out of me. So it's very tough. As a mum, there's a lot of guilt associated with being a businesswoman, but I'm doing all of this for my son. And I would hope one day that he admires that hard work. I mean, I admire my father, and he was always working. And I look at him now and he's my best role model because he worked so hard. And yes, maybe you're absent at times because you have work commitments, but that's what it takes to build something for your family.
I've seen photos of your little one and he is so, gorgeous. Like he's just beautiful. And like in Greek, like, and I'm gonna say it, like, Nasozisi, because he's just an amazing, he looks gorgeous. He just looks beautiful.
He's a beautiful boy, full of love.
Anyone that knows me knows that I'm like the biggest sucker when it comes to kids. Like it's just crazy.
They're amazing.
So he just looks beautiful. So I think he's going to be, and obviously having a loving environment is just so helpful for both.
Very important. Yeah.
Your dad, and I wanted to talk about your dad briefly, but your dad was obviously a well-known businessman within Melbourne as well.
Yes.
How much has that played a role into where you are now?
So huge. So my dad was the CEO of Porsche Australia, as you know, for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So my dad, he's a very high achiever, needless to say, but he's got a mentality that it has filtered through to my brother and I. So, my brother was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs. My mum was a dentist, and I fell into this. So we sort of had this environment where no one was ever pressured. Like my parents didn't pressure us, but they set a standard.
Yeah, of course.
So my dad's, the way he goes about everything in business, and I've watched him over the years, he never cuts corners. He always wants the best. And he did set that, expectation from us that everything would be at our best possible effort. It didn't matter if it was the best or not in amongst people, but for us. So if we weren't putting in the best, that's when he would be, pull me up, and he'll still pull me up today. I mean, he's invested in the sense of from love in my business, not financially, but he cares about every move that I make, and he's a perfectionist. So,
and I guess their roles change as well now because they go from being the parent and the idol and the role model to now he's also being a papu and which is grandfather, grandparents, I should say, for the non-Greek speaking,
yes, and he's an amazing papu, if you don't mind me using the word too.
100%.
And a role that I think I love seeing him in because, like I said, he's had such a serious role all his life and committed to work and business.
Yeah.
But then, watching the opportunities that he's had, I think this is the thing that potentially influenced my brother and I, is that he's worked so hard for where he got to today, and the opportunities that he had with Porsche, the travel that mum and him did, and the things they saw around the world and the people that they met. And, they're still humble, if you don't mind me using the word. They're still very humble people, but and they never let it get to them. But it was just watching someone who was, just your regular guy. And being exposed to all these amazing things and all these amazing people that he's learnt from and then passed on to us. That's the inspiring part. I want to give my son that, to say, this is what I've done. I had to work really hard, but this is where it took me. And you hope that instills the same drive and motivation in your children. So I look at it very differently before. Like obviously before being a mum, you're selfish. Like you think, me, it's all about me. Where's this? But now I just think every move I make about, and packing school lunches and brain food, as they say these days.
Brain food, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I think it's so good. Like, and then it's what I like hearing. I mean, for us, it's all about the platform of people that, and I say make it in inverted commas, but I wish if I had my choice, I'd want everyone to make it. But we know that realistically not everyone does.
Yeah.
But the humble part, I agree with you on. Like, and it's the biggest thing because we all know someone who has been on both sides of life.
100%.
And the humbleness they lose. So to hear you reinforce that, obviously, and not here to talk about your dad, but, he didn't have a small gig either. Like, it's a pretty big deal that he's had. So
yes, exactly.
I think it's different as well if you've got the position at somewhere like a CEO of Porsche Australia, but you're not striving your children to want to do better.
Correct.
Then you're sitting and resting on your laurels. But clearly as a person and people, we get inspired by those closest to us and around us.
Yeah, that's all it was. And, my parents always came from they always encouraged us. So that it wasn't about, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. My mum would always say to me, well, someone has to do it. So why not you? Yeah. It can be you. I mean, it's just everyone's the same.
I love that.
We never thought, oh, we're better than anyone. We can do this. We just thought, okay, everyone's equal.
Yeah.
So if I work hard, it will pay off for me. So they just encouraged us so much that we believed in ourselves. We thought, okay, I can do this. I'm not scared. I've got good support, and it's just taking a chance, really.
I love that. When you started out this journey on your cosmetics line, and as you start to make waves, it's just, did you start to find that either friendship groups or relationships with people started to change? And I'm not saying it's from a jealousy point of view, but it's more from a point of view that, hey, these things actually do happen.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I lost a few friendships or relationships along the way, not through having falling outs, but just people distancing potentially, seeing you differently, or maybe assuming you're different. But what happens when you start to dedicate your life to business is you have limited time. Like if you really, really want to succeed at something, you become very time poor. And that means, unfortunately, spending potentially less time with people or not having as much time to call people. So I understand, like, people might see it differently, but that's what it takes to commit and to succeed.
Yeah.
So there are sacrifices that you make along the way, and they may be relationships, sadly, but the people that are very close to you,
they know your fabric.
That's right, and they want to see you succeed, so they'll understand that about you. And I think, it's funny, we were saying being humble before, but like my friendship group, my very close network now, like I don't talk about my business, never. They probably don't even know how it's structured or how big it is. Like I think it's, my dad's always said to me, let your results speak, as people say. Don't say a word. Don't ever say a word, because it's the proof's in the pudding. If you do it, like, people will know about it because you've succeeded in this and that. But ultimately, there's no point in sitting talking about yourself. There's no benefit to that. And I think that makes people feel uneasy as well. And it's not a trait that a lot of people like about others when they talk about themselves. So
it's so true, because I think once you start to put yourself out there on a platform, unfortunately, I guess people are somehow built to maybe want to people will always be happy for you, but they'll never be happier to see you do better than them.
Exactly. And look, that's the tall poppy syndrome that we talk about in Australia. If you go to America, they're like cheerleaders for your success.
Yeah.
So it's very, I think it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad, because we should really, really build each other up. I mean, somebody like Effie, who I see a lot, like I admire women in Melbourne that are killing it. Like that inspires me. I look at her and I think she's amazing. I know her personally, and she's an amazing human being anyway. But what she's done and how she's gotten there is incredible.
Yeah.
You should never compare. And I said this earlier about competitors as well. You just focus on yourself. Like once you start comparing, you're going to fall off the ladder. Like it's just looking back is the worst thing you can do. You just got to stay focused.
It's incredibly true as well, because, people are always, I guess, you're wanting to stay in your own lane, and it's hard sometimes not to hear the noise.
Of course.
Because I think there's always going to be noise. And exactly, it's how strong you are at blocking it out.
Yeah. I mean, if you're really passionate about what you do, your business, and the product that you're selling or whatever it might be, the passion will get you through, because you're so captivated by what you're doing that somebody else's journey is like, oh, amazing, but I don't have like time. Like I'm so into what I'm doing. And that was me. Yeah. I was obsessed with it. Look, I got so obsessed with it in the first few years that I was not sleeping. I was seriously, my health was compromised. Like I had lost 10 kilos. Yeah. I was very underweight, and I had lost sight of everything else because I was so zoned in on getting to where I wanted to go. Now, that's not healthy. I've learned that balance in business is really, really important.
It's so funny you say that, because I had that word written on my phone.
Yeah.
Was balance and that's the thing, is what are you doing now to balance yourself out?
And you have to, because you burn out.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You could do so well for years, and you will burn out at some point. See, becoming a mother made me understand what balance was all about. If I hadn't have had my son Marcus, I don't think that I would have ever learnt how to balance life and business.
Yeah, okay.
Now I appreciate and value my time off, and I will enjoy it. Whereas years ago, I would have felt guilty about it, and that felt like I was failing somehow.
As a successful businesswoman that you are today, and I'm not sorry to say it, but I'm not pissing in your pocket when I say that, by the way, so I really mean it. There's this whole thing at the moment about gyms and all this type of stuff and workout and physical health and mental health and all that type of stuff. Are you into yoga or Pilates or something like that along those lines? Because, I've never tried yoga or Pilates personally, but it's more for you
I'm obsessed with exercise, always have been. So I was a professional swimmer in my teenage years.
Okay.
So my poor mum used to get up at 4 a.m. every day and take me to swimming and after school.
Harold Holt?
No, I was at Carey, Carey Grammar. Yeah. So I learnt that discipline with exercise back then. It was a bit much, but I still apply that rule today. So I will wake up every single morning and work out. Doesn't matter where I've been the night before. Doesn't matter if my son's going to, I'll have my mum there and I'll do my hour of exercise.
Yeah, right.
I will not compromise on that because that's for me. That's my time. I think that's really good for my mental health, my internal dialogue during the day. If I don't do it, then I start to get down on myself.
Yeah, you feel a bit fluffy.
Yeah. And it's just good for my mind. Like I clear my mind. So I do Pilates and I run. And I'll mix up both, or I do two on the same day, and then I'm ready to go. I feel really good about myself. I'm not talking about physically. I mean mentally, because I've already achieved something by 7 a.m.
That's awesome.
So it's like, okay, I've started the day off positively. Yeah. If I miss it, it's like just like a downhill spiral. Yeah. I
get that,
and that's not good for me. But that's just how I work. Yeah. Like some people like to exercise after work, let off steam. I can't do that. I like to relax, be with my son, switch off completely from the day. So that's just my routine. But yes, I love exercise. I feel like it's just something that motivates me. And I need to stay motivated because you can get into autopilot and into a slump. Like, you have to stay motivated somehow.
I agree. I'm sort of like, I prefer the during the day. That's me.
Yes.
Because I'm flexible with work and being able to go home, have a shower and all that. I can't do mornings because I love my sleep.
Yeah.
And afternoons, no chance.
No chance
because
afternoon.
I want to relax in the afternoon. So during the day works for me. Not that I do it that often, but when I do it, you know what I mean? You get the idea.
Yeah, during the day,
But it's good to get a bit of an insight as to what sort of breaks things up for you and what works for you, because everyone's different. Like my boss, Pete, at work, like he'll be up at 5:30 in the morning. He'll walk the dog first before he does anything. Walks the dog, comes back, and then he's doing an hour of mixture of cardio and weights. That's what works for him. Yeah. So it's just good to hear sort of from yourself as a, I guess, there's always been this saying which stuck with me from my first ever boss, guy called Chris Hassel, and he said, "Success leaves clues."
Yes.
So I love hearing obviously little bits and pieces that if there is another entrepreneurial woman out there that is thinking like, I'd love to get into the fashion space or the cosmetic space or whatever space it's going to be. I hope that as the podcast between yourself and Effie and others to come are providing that insight for them because that's what it's there for, is to provide that hope.
That's right. And look, it's funny because on social media, people see like one aspect of your life.
Yeah, 1,000%.
So, I post a lot about work. I post a lot about my social life, let's say. But a lot of people don't know that I have a son because I choose not to post him. Yeah. It will be very rare, but he's sacred. He's sacred to me. He's part of my life that I don't want to share. Yeah. That's for me, and other people go about it differently. But for me, that's my personal choice with my son. And it's something you don't see. However, people come to us, assume things that, are you just spend time with your son, you're always working, you're always out. That's like 1 hour on a Friday night where I go to a dinner
people will pick what they want to pick.
Yeah, like of course.
People will pick what they want to pick. I was actually having this conversation the other day with someone when they said, how do you balance real estate and podcasts? I'm like, dude, podcast takes me an hour every week.
That's right.
People are going to come up with their excuses for you, and you're always out. You're not with your son. I'm just using an example because I could imagine what you'd be hearing.
Of course. But I think it's very healthy as a female, as a mum, and a lot of mums will agree with me, to have your own time and to be social, because there's a lot of postnatal depression out there, and when you're working and you're trying to balance that, it can become taxing on a woman.
I completely get
There's
it.
a lot of pressure. So I think it's really important to make time for everything, whether it's social, whether it's being with your husband, date night, whatever people want to do, that stuff all counts. And it also counts in business because you're more well-rounded as a human being and you're not putting as much pressure. You don't feel as much of a failure in things. And
It's so true.
you just got to think about, making sure that you're on the right page for yourself and everything else, like you said, for younger entrepreneurs or people who want to be, that you're in a headspace where you're ready to take on any challenge. And that's hard for everybody. We're all working on that all
It's
the
the
time.
most truest thing ever because, and I think, your circle that you surround yourself with has become probably the most important thing of all time. And someone asked me the other day, like, when did you feel that you matured most? I was like, I don't know, late 20s.
Yeah.
That's probably when I felt like I'd finally hit that, up until that early 20s, mid 20s, it was just life was a party, life was fun, life was different.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, okay, now it's more like, let's settle down, let's have fun, let's, not have fun that way, but have fun of, going to that property search, going to that spouse search, whatever
That's
it's going to be that you're searching for.
Exactly. You're right. And whatever path you're on, I think you need to be at the stage where you're ready for it. So keeping your eye on the prize, whatever that prize is, and taking steps to feel as though you're going to get there. And that's the thing, just taking a small step. Like people think you have to take this big leap and just like, I need to end up where I want to be, like we were saying earlier. Just a small step here and there, And if you want to change something, it's your behavior, that you need to change actually from within you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want their environment to change, but they're not changing their own behavior. And unfortunately, that's the key to change.
Anxiety, is that something that you deal with?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. High functioning.
Yeah.
More so in the early years. I've learned to manage it a lot better now.
Yeah.
With balance in my life. But back then, I was just full of anxiety. And that's, I think, where the weight loss came in.
Yeah.
My mother was very unwell at the time. I lived away from her. I lived in Brisbane. So it was a lot of pressure on me. I didn't know who to focus on while I had this business that was growing. The anxiety was a very difficult thing to deal with. Again, having my son probably calmed that a lot because I had to focus on a small human being to raise rather than focusing on myself and everything that was going potentially wrong or right. But yeah, still today, definitely. But I do things to calm it now. Like I will, whether it's one thing is listening to music for me, and exercise, or being with my son, instantly calm.
What's
calm.
choice of music?
Well, bit of R&B,
nice,
bit of house,
I love that.
Anything really. I love music, but R&B is and Greek, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Greek.
Yeah, that's it's a no-brainer. Even if you're not Greek, you should listen to it.
So true.
One of the last questions I wanted to ask you was, Dimmy Damianos Hair Salon opens up and he wants to become a stockist of your products. How does he go about doing it?
So you would come and if you knew about us, contact us. If you didn't know about us, we advertise in all the beauty magazines that go to salons.
Okay.
Obviously social media, or we have sales reps that would, potentially phone you because they know you're a new salon in the area.
Yeah.
And they select a collection and we put that in the salon, and then we go from putting it into training you, staying in touch, hopefully getting your customers on board by having like VIP nights for them.
Yeah.
So we do things in store with our salons. And
so would
make
you
it
have
relevant
visited every single one of your stockists?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, the ones that are in the country, and we do have a lot of rural stockists.
Yeah, right.
We'll have like a big education night in the main cities, and they'll travel to us. So I've met everybody.
That's awesome.
Some I can't get to. There might be like a 6-hour drive inland in New South Wales or something.
Especially if you're in Perth, like good luck driving 6 hours out.
Yeah. And I'm not the best driver, so I don't know how that would work for me.
I love that.
So I have met everyone, and I go to New Zealand twice a year and host retailer conferences there. So I've met all our New Zealand retailers. It's it's for me, that is my favorite part.
So we're over 350 now?
Yeah.
Stockers?
Yeah.
So do we call them? Do we call them stockers?
I call them stockers, retailers.
Retailers.
Yeah. And they're all beautiful people, and they've all taught me about my business.
That's so awesome.
I'm honored that these people trust me enough to sell my brand. That's a big thing.
One thing we always ask to finish off the podcast is the humble 3. It's the same 3 questions that we ask every single guest on. So I'm looking forward to hearing these answers. We had some really funny and different ones. The first one is, if you weren't in your current occupation, what would you be doing and why?
Ooh, I'd love to be a singer.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, firstly, I love music, and I feel like I could get into that like alter ego and perform on stage.
Thoughts on the verse?
Absolutely not. I'm not sure I have the voice to match up. This is all in my head.
I love the song. You know what song I love? And please, whatever you do not cut this out, Brayden. I love the song that's what's the one that's like, let's go girls. And you know, let's go. I love it. I love it.
That's a bit of Shania Twain, I think.
Oh man, I would love to perform that song. Second song is that if you could own a billboard, what would it say and why?
Ooh, if I could own a billboard, I think it's what my mum used to tell me.
Yep.
If why not you?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
that's nice. That's a good one. That's actually a really nice one. Actually, I haven't heard that one. So simple but nice.
Yeah,
it's good. And the last one, and it doesn't have to be within the family, but if it's not within the family or if it's not outside the family, it's completely fine. You can go within the family.
Yes.
Is who would have to be your biggest inspiration and why? Like, is there someone in the cosmetic scene that has, I guess, inspired you to be the way that you are? Or
funny. Okay, so in earlier years, obviously my dad. That goes without saying. But in recent years, a friend of mine actually who just passed away, Jonathan Hallen, and he was the owner of BPM
Property. Yeah.
And you know, a billionaire basically. I met him about 5 years ago and he became a very close friend of mine and a mentor and a role model for me in business. His attitude was just like no one I've ever met before. And of course, to be that successful, you'd have to be very unique, which he was.
Yeah.
His mentality was that he sacrificed everything to get to where he was till he realized that the most valuable part of life was human connection. And it's interesting for a man like that to say, because he was such a powerful man, but when you sat with him, there was nobody else in the room. Like he had the ability to make you feel like you were the most special human being in the universe. And I think that's what made him so successful is because business is all about relationships, right? So you can have 5 makeup brands, but the person probably that you enjoyed talking to the most may be the brand that you end up going with, the person you believe in, because you're selling yourself. They've got to believe in you, not the product necessarily. So he taught me so much about how to be with people and how he made me feel, and it made me want to make my customers feel more like that. And from such a successful man who sadly just left us way too soon, he lived life to the fullest as well, you know, so he had that balance of he had children, but he still made time for himself to travel and to live and to fall in love. And, you know, in recent years, he got married. I'm so grateful to have known such an incredible man. So
yeah, that's obviously through the real estate space of what he does with BPM, I sort of didn't know him personally, but knew of his business, I should say. So, and then obviously I think it was in the Herald Sun or something like that. So,
he put up a big fight and his beautiful wife and his 3 children, they're all amazing people, but he was such a big presence and it just taught me about the impact that you can leave on people, not because of who you are and talking about yourself. He never talked about himself. He made you feel special. Yeah. And I think that was a quality that all of us should adopt because it's one thing, like he said, human connection. You can't buy it. It's priceless.
It's nice and refreshing in some ways, I guess, to hear someone give such a honest opinion about someone who the unfortunate part obviously is no longer with us, but obviously memory eternal as always. So
yes.
Incredible though. And obviously he was a fantastic businessman and well known for his business. So I think there's something there to aspire to
100%.
For sure. So
definitely.
From our end at the Humble Climb, Tori, we can't thank you enough for coming on. You've been an absolute star and providing a little bit of an insight into how the cosmetics industry is working, because obviously from my end, I said my mum and sister they're the only ones that have had makeup in the household whenever I've been there, whereas I haven't as much. So unless we go on to bigger things and better things, Brayden, maybe I'll start to get some concealer on or something. But you never know.
Not?
Yeah, why not? I'll have to get some. I'll have to get some of obviously Victoria Curtis's collection.
Yes,
we'll go from there. So I can't thank you enough for coming on. You've been fantastic and open and humble as always. And from the time I spoke to you on the phone, you were exactly that. And we've had plenty of people that have requested to be on, but obviously we're very selective because I want to make sure they fit the brief. So
thank you.
I can't thank you enough for coming on. You're a star, and I'm looking forward to obviously continuing to support your journey from afar. Now, next step is for me to probably find a girlfirend.
Yep.
So that we can, cool, done.
Yeah,
and then we can,
beautiful girls.
done. And then from there, we can start to get some of Victoria Curtis's collection out there. So, and then we go from there.
When we find her.
You're a star, guys. Continue to like, comment, subscribe. That's how we grow. Can't thank you guys enough. And I'll chat to you guys next week. Cheers.